Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Indigenous Circle. Tonight we'll take you on a journey to an isolated community in northern Saskatchewan. The story takes place in and around South End, located about 500 kilometers north of Prince Albert. It's a family reunion, but it's probably not the kind you're thinking of. This one is almost unimaginable. When we return, we'll meet the Clarke family, whose lives were changed by a tragedy that took place 15 years ago, and how a chance encounter has affected the lives of many. Clarke Reunion when Indigenous Circle returns.
I'm feeling a number of different emotions. I think it's excitement on the one hand, little apprehension on another. I mean, there's nothing in one's experience that prepares one for this sort of thing. I think it's absolutely unique.
Barry Clarke is a geologist on a mission. His journey is especially important to a family he barely knows and a young boy he never met. But it is a journey he will take and complete. The story begins in 1987 in South End, a tiny northern village where less than 1,000 people live, working the land and the lakes. The remoteness of the village seems to add to the chill of a November day. 15-year-old Barry Clarke and his father go hunting, something they've done hundreds of times. Barry's mother, Angie, was uneasy. The trip seemed different, almost ill-timed. Later that day, her sense of dread became clear. Barry was involved in a hunting accident.
He fell and accidentally shot himself in the chest, so I picked him up. I lifted his legs and laid him in the boat. I drove along the shortcut. It was too long to go the other way.
In desperation, Larry carried his injured son over 1 kilometer.
I met up with a SaskTel employee. I flagged him down with my jacket and told him we had trouble and that my boy was hurt in an accident.
A call for help was made and a plane dispatched.
When the plane was flying around here, he was still breathing. By the time we drove there, he took his last breath.
The gunshot wound to Barry's chest proved fatal. The youth died in his father's arms on the side of a road.
He was only going to trap for a month, then attend school again. He really loved to trap. He would have only went with me one more time, and then he was going to go back.
He always loved the land, and he was really into music. He loved music. He was a real youthful spirit. Everybody just loved him.
Barry was buried in the South End Cemetery. Pauline, his baby sister, regularly visits his grave. She lost more than a brother that day. She lost a friend with whom she did everything.
We grew up in the trap line, like I told you before. It was along this highway here. He used to trap with my dad. I used to trap with them also. We used to fight over squirrel pelts because they used to be worth $2 at the time. So we'd fight over my dad's squirrel pelts. So by the time we got to the reserve, he'd always have more. And then we'd go trade him in, get our money, and buy snacks or whatever, eh? But he was always part of nature.
It's that love that brings the Clarke family together 15 years later. August 16th, 2002 would have been Barry's 30th birthday. It's a day in which the two Clarke worlds become one.
I don't think this sort of meeting of peoples has ever taken place under these circumstances before.
This is a reunion of a different sort. It involves Barry Clarke, the geologist from Halifax, and the Clarke family of South End, Saskatchewan. Hunters and fishers.
This is Andrew.
Yes. My girlfriend.
Their worlds couldn't be more different. But here they are, all because 7 years ago, as he was surveying the north, Barry the geologist stumbled on a cross, marking the location of where the youth had been shot. And of course, the name on the cross, Barry Clarke.
We were in a 16-foot boat, and I was up in the front, and my assistant was in the back, and he brought it right up to the shore. and I wasn't saying anything. And Andy, my assistant, said to me, "What does it say? What does it say?" And I said, "Andy, it has my name on it." I really wondered whether I was in full grip of reality. I wasn't quite sure what was going on. Was Andy bringing me to a place to tell me that I had died?
Eventually, Clarke's confusion gives way to understanding and some curiosity.
We looked at the cross and we found some information, more information on the back of it. We did understand, it was a young boy of 15 years old who had the same name as I do. And so I resolved that when we finished our field work here, when I got back out, I would try to find out more about what happened. And I did ask some questions. So when I got back to Halifax, I went and bought some dried flowers, and I wrote a letter to the family, and I just addressed it to the Clarke family, who lost a son on Davin Lake in 1987, South End, Saskatchewan. And within a week, there was a phone call from Angie, from Barry's mother, to my office. And that was the beginning of a long period of communication with the family.
Pauline received the package from Barry Clarke, the geologist.
So I went home with his box, and my parents were sitting there, and they looked at me and they said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "We got mail." And they knew right away it was something very different. So into the kitchen, and I opened it up, and there's dry roses in there. I started opening the card, and then I started reading the letter, and that's when we found out it was geologist Barry Clarke had found my brother's cross. But before I could even finish reading it, I just immediately felt a chill, and I started crying. I knew right away it had something to do with my brother Barry, or everything to do with my brother Barry. I felt his presence there really strongly.
That was 1994. 8 years later, the two Clarke families are together.
Well, it was certainly different from the first time. The first time was such an unsettling experience. This time, knowing everything, it seemed more like a pilgrimage, with the family back to this place.
It's a symbol of how strong my brother's spirit was. Like, it reached all the way to Halifax to send him over here. And we never even had any connections to the east or anything. We were always out here in the woods, and that's where he loved. He loved it in the woods. That's where we grew up.
The moment is spiritual. It's as though Barry Clarke, the son, the brother, has come home.
It's nice to have Barry to finally see that, this is who we are. We're part of the land.
The Clarkes have decided to erect a second cross, this time on the very spot where Barry drew his last breath. The Clarkes of South End find their faith in the Catholic Church. That faith allows them to let go of their grief here. It's a moment of sadness and joy.
I'm so happy. Like, the pain's over, it's done. It's time to move on. And I'm just happy. I'm really happy. I feel at peace, and my brother's birthday today. I know he's right here. He's looking, And he'll probably go home safely today.
In a sense, it would have been better if today had never happened. That there never was a cross to find. And that would mean, of course, that Barry was alive, and that the Clarkes in Halifax and the Clarkes in South End would have no connection. But given that the accident did happen, I think what has come out of it has been really most wonderful. I know in the next few years I'll be bringing my wife west, and I think we will probably put South End on the itinerary so that my wife Susan can meet the Clarke family too, the rest of the Clarke family.
Hopefully the north will connect to the east and share, so we can share food like lobster tail and caribou meat.
For Barry the geologist, the reunion is wonderful, but cloaked in mystery.
The probability of finding a cross in the woods is just about zero, and the probability that you find one with your name on it is infinitely small.
I think what it means is it's time for Barry to finally go in peace. His work here is done, because I'm pretty sure that his spirit orchestrated this whole thing because he was so strong.
Regardless of how it happened or why, the two families from opposite ends of the country are now friends, united in a unique bond, all because of a twist of fate that defies explanation.
To me, I felt quite comfortable, and to me, it feels like an extended family.
So that's across from Nova Scotia.
And that comfort extends to a mother's loss. Now she too can let go.
Don't worry about Barry. He's going to heaven. I know he's going to heaven. He was a nice boy.
Laughter, joy. The younger Barry Clarke wouldn't have it any other way. For Indigenous Circle, I'm Jason Matity at Davin Lake.
So how does an event like the one you just saw affect people's lives? When we return, we'll meet two of the major players involved in the Clarke reunion. The Clarke reunion story you saw before the break was shot last summer by our reporter Jason Matity. He spent several days with the Clarke family and was impacted by the uniqueness of the story. Pauline Clarke, of course, played a major role in the reunion. She brought it all together. I'm joined now by Pauline and Jason. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Nelson.
So Pauline, this story is a unique story. You know, it's not one of these reunion stories we hear about often. How for you was it to bring it together like this?
Well, it was amazing to me. Like when I first received the package, when the family first received the package, I knew right away it held uniqueness in it, and I knew I had to do something about it. Like throughout the years, Barry would mail us and email us. We'd talk on the phone. I didn't think I'd actually meet him, but I met him for the first time on May 26th of this year. And we went out for supper. We went and had red lobster, which was really good. So from there, I figured, man, he's such a wonderful man. You know, my family's got to meet him. So that's how it happened.
And you mentioned we mentioned the story that you wanted to trade lobster with caribou, and that's what you actually did, I guess.
Yes, that's what we did. He fed me lobster tail first, and he kind of found that funny because I ordered red lobster, eh? And he's just come from the east, where there's plenty of lobster. So he kind of found that very funny that I would order that kind of food. So when I took him back home, we shared a lot of wild meat with him, and he enjoyed it very much.
So what is your family? You know, how did they react to this? You know, when your family's all together with Barry up there that day, you know, the first time they met him, what was it like for them after we left?
Oh, it was wonderful. That's when we visited each other a lot into more detail. He spoke a lot about his work. He's a geologist, and he really loves his work. And as a matter of fact, I'm taking a geology class so I could better understand what he does. And I can see why he loves his work so much.
And now Jason Matity joins us also. For Jason, you spent days with the Clarke family, and you had a chance to visit with them and see how they, you know, what's going on there. How was that for you?
Well, it was very interesting, first of all, to have the opportunity to do a story in that part of the province. We don't often get up there, and such an interesting story to see two worlds that really have nothing to do with each other coming under one roof, and not just location-wise from Halifax to Saskatchewan, but also, you know, between the two cultures. between Aboriginals and non-Aboriginals getting together as one and getting along as a real family.
So do you think people can learn, you know, you see the two cultures, non-native and native cultures, getting together so well. Do you think people can learn from something like this?
Absolutely, you know, and I know Barry, when we first met him, like he was really nervous. He didn't know what to expect, you know, simply because he knew Pauline, and you could tell that when he saw Pauline first, he instantly started to relax, and I mean, Pauline's family, which was so great, made us all feel welcome. And I think it is a lesson for all of us to learn that, yes, we all can get along despite all of our differences.
That's great. And Pauline, Jason mentions your parents now. You know, they're up in South End where they don't see a lot of non-native people. And how is it for them to meet Barry and, you know, get along?
Well, well, my dad deals with white people quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's a guide during the summer,
right,
so
yeah.
it's nothing new, like to meet up with white people and stuff. But it was a very great meeting, like to meet him for the first time and to hug him, especially to hug him.
The sense of humor was brought out by the story. You could just tell a lot of smiles, a lot of happiness. And is that how it is all the time?
Oh, that's how our family is. We're just jokers. My brother was a joker too. He'd probably make you laugh right now.
What's next for you? What's next for you in the Barry Clarke of Halifax?
Well, I'm hoping to visit Halifax one of these days, maybe sometime the next year. I can go and meet his family, because we've only met him, and I'd really love to meet the rest of his family. They seem like a really awesome group of people.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Pauline and Jason, for joining me today. And don't go away, because when we return, we'll meet Annie Bird, an Indian medicine woman from South End, who will astound you with her abilities. Welcome back. Over the years, Annie Bird has helped hundreds of people. The 72-year-old Cree woman has an unusual gift. It was given to her as a child, and it's one that allows her to heal people. We met her at her home in South End over the summer and found out that Indian medicine is derived from natural substances, but it's not for everybody. You have to believe. Here's that story. Annie Bird is a healer. She's not a doctor, but says she can treat almost any illness, from back problems to the common cold. She's a medicine woman who says her ability to heal was a gift from God.
The one that is up there, God, He gave it to me. I was sleeping and I dreamt God came and gave me medicine. He opened my hands and placed it there so that I could use it.
Annie was born and raised in South End. Many people in the small community have come to know Annie as their family doctor. Her medicine is all natural.
All the nature you see, the trees, anything, God put them there so that we could use them. I also use bark from trees.
Annie is a strong believer in the Catholic religion. Her medical practice is a combination of Catholicism and nature. Her medicine is usually ground up and taken orally, sometimes applied directly on the skin. But the medicine, she says, is not for everybody.
And some of them don't really help a person. It's like this. When you don't believe in Indian medicine, it won't help you. If you don't believe in modern medicine, it won't help you either. You have to believe. It's no wonder when I give someone medicine, I don't just give it to them. I pray and ask God to help me when I give the medicine. People get better because it's from God.
Indian medicine is in her blood. Her mother and grandmother both used it and passed it on.
My older sister raised me, and she also knew how to give medicine. She would help people.
Indian medicine has been around for countless ages, and it's not all used in a good way. Bad medicine is used by some, and Annie warns what goes around comes around.
Bad medicine is used when someone wants to do something to harm you. People are starting to do that again. The medicine comes back to them. They can't do anything, and they'll be sick all the time.
Annie only uses medicine for good, and she is passing on her knowledge, but she worries the practice will disappear.
That's what young people should do. They should learn it. People don't live forever. A lot of people come to me for medicine, but when I die, there'll be no one here for them.
But she says there is hope. She's helping to raise her 14-year-old grandson. He's shown the remarkable ability to find the proper herbs, plants, and roots. She's confident he will be the one to carry on her legacy. Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's special on the Clarke reunion and Medicine Woman. And don't forget, we always like to hear from you. So if you have some thoughts you'd like to pass on, here's how we can be reached. Indigenous Circle, care of CTV Saskatchewan, 216 First Avenue North, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Postal code is S7K3W3. You can call us at either 665-8600 or my number in Regina is 569-6451. And you can email us at indigenouscircle@ctv.ca. Tonight's show dealt with the serious subject of losing a loved one. The Clarke family certainly experienced this, but they also found a new friend with the same name. Now here's Tessa Denemy and Bill Cook singing a song they wrote for both Clarke families. It's called Barry's Song. Good night, everyone.